The next panel session that I'm pleased to announce and introduce is the Economic Opportunity, the Future of Work panel, moderated by the infamous Amos Winbush III. Please give him a warm welcome as he kick off the next panel for all of you on the future of work. Let's get the virtual round of applause going. Amos, over to you.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you so much.
Let's get it. Let's get the energy.
I don't know if you guys can hear me, but welcome everyone. Thanks for taking the time to actually be here. That's the first step in making true change. My name is Amos Winbush III. I'm the founder and CEO of AW3 Media Group and co-founder of Forbes 8. And I'm here to tell you that the future of work is bright, but only if we recognize and acknowledge the calling to be the light and the salt of the earth. So we must not, take this this time and approach it with fear. It's really a moment to activate divine rest. And when I think of rest, I think of it as an acronym. The R, recognize; the E, engage; the S, surrender; and the T, trust. So as a believer and part of the body, we're called to sit atop the 7 mountains of influence and not to control them, but to be an example of how to walk out discipleship. And for me, when I read Deuteronomy 28:13, it clearly says that we're called to be the head and not the tail. So as believers, we are called to reign in every part of life. And that doesn't mean, again, to lord over others, but to serve with love and through righteousness. So economic opportunities and equalities and the future of work rests in our hands, and it must be defined every day by our actions and activities. So when we talk about those 7 mountains of influence, we're talking about government, media, entertainment and arts, and business, education, religion, and family. And if we aren't occupying those seats yet, our responsibility is to ensure that we're praying for divine guidance for those who are occupying those seats and actively walking in our given purpose and calling to affect change in our own circle of influence. So Benjamin Rush said something that often speaks volumes to me. He said, nothing can be politically right that is morally wrong. So in this moment, we have no space to wade in the muck of fear. And this is a call to action. So on our side, we have some news within Forbes 8. Within the next the next coming weeks, I'll be debuting a 6-month free model for the network, which completely removes the barrier of entry into the platform. Our goal and our mission has always been to support global entrepreneurs and business leaders where they are. And this action directly acknowledges the financial hardships many are facing, while also acknowledging our role to support the need for access to opportunities and knowledge. So during this time, we'll also debut 10 new series, which we're actively working on now with countries all around the world, to not only address the current environment, but help usher us into a deeper, more thoughtful and authentic community. So with that being said, we're excited to move into the next phase of our entrepreneurial journey with our partners and leaders around the world like you. So let's get started. I'll take a quick moment to acknowledge our panelists. Let's welcome Raquel, Aubrey May, Christiana, Justin, and Jonathan, and I'll ask them to do a brief intro. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
So, Raquel, I'm very happy to be here and speak to everyone. I'm very happy to see Miss Christine again. I want you to know I have decided to grow up to be me and no one else. She'll get that. So we work in the Charlotte YMCA, the 15th biggest city in the US now. It just came out. And I work specifically with the Parents as Teachers program, doing home visits to moms, dads, Spanish, English speaking, and also from other countries. And it's very important, the work that we are still able to do throughout the pandemic. So I am looking forward to sharing some insights there from the Charlotte perspective.
Yeah, Raquel. Who's next? Aubrey, you want to go next?
Yeah, of course.
Go for it.
Okay, so good evening, good day everyone. My name is Aubrey May Villanueva Atas. I am from YMCA Philippines, YMCA of Albay. So I'm very excited to share my thoughts and experiences with you today. So, and entertain some questions. Yeah,
Glad to have you.
thank you.
Cristiano?
So hi everyone, my name is Cristiano, you can call me Chris. I'm from Brazil, from the YMCA Brazil. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a volunteer at the YMCA, and I'm very glad to be here and discuss with you guys those unknown times that we're going to be going into from now on. Thank you.
Last but not least, Jonathan.
Well, hello, I'm Jonathan from the Netherlands, and I am also going to talk, I'm also going to answer your questions, and I'm also going to respond on work-related issues. Really happy to be part.
There we go. So that is our distinguished panel. And I'll jump right into it. So just to let you guys know that my moderating methods are free-flowing. I typically won't call anyone, and I'll just allow you guys to jump into it. So the first question that I have is, what insight would you like to share on staying rooted in community and while also having your pulse on the now, specifically around economic empowerment and access to opportunity, understanding the societal structure is completely being reshaped around us?
I'd like to answer that if that's okay with the group. You're actually speaking to something that I recently was reading in this great book that I want all the youth to look into. It's called Making Neighborhoods Whole by Wayne Gordon and John Perkins. And it speaks to making sure that we are pouring back into our neighborhoods, not just giving handouts, and empowering people, not enabling them. And so in Charlotte specifically, we have been already, before all of this started, working with the upward mobility scale, working on getting families out of poverty. And then this just kind of took it to a whole nother level. And reading the book reminded me that not only do we need to continue to pour into our communities with resources, but we need to continue to pour in with education, and also reminding them that they can do a lot more than they thought. And in that, it's more or less like the parable, and I really appreciate you bringing the word into it at the beginning, because yes, we are Christians. You know, do you want to teach a man to fish, or do you want to give him fish, right? So our mindset is to not only go into these homes, we do home visiting, to bring resources, but to remind them, hey, you can do this, you're already doing that, why not get paid for it? Your children can help with certain things, and obviously being mindful of child labor laws. But of course, we want to empower, not enable. I know, I'm sorry, guys. And so with that being said, you know, here in Charlotte, we're doing a lot of work, even still with some of our virtual restrictions, video-wise, and making sure that we remind them, you are your biggest resource. Yeah.
So good. That's so good. If I could second that, I would second it and third it and fourth it, because I think it is the new structure. It is the new currency, and that's how we remain connected. So anyone else want to take that? All right, cool. Go for it.
Well, I could say that I do believe that in terms of giving back to the community, especially in these difficult times, we must keep in mind that nowadays the opportunities we have to learn new things are really vast. They are larger than ever before. We're not even restricted to our local libraries or to our local schools. We can even learn and teach things in our own context. For example, as we're doing now over great distance. And I think that's one of the great tasks that I could think of that connects to what was said before, that we can build up stronger communities by, well, just letting our own curiosity stream and letting our own curiosity find its way.
Yeah, that's a really good one. So in my signature, anytime I send an email, there's a verse that's at the bottom, and it's, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few." So this next question is really near and dear to my heart. So how can we stay connected and finding intimacy in our work, and discovering access to economic inroads, even with elements of isolation being present?
Well, can I jump into that? I was actually thinking about that, Amos, and I think one of the things that the youth need, we're talking about even before the pandemics, is having a sense of purpose. So if you don't have a sense of purpose, it doesn't matter where you work, if it's in isolated or in an office, it doesn't matter where you are. You probably won't be happy. You won't be enabling people to help you to do your job. So I think one of the things people have to understand is this that's happening right now is probably going to take place for a long time, and you're probably going to change the way we work, and you're probably going to have to work more isolated than you were before. But although you are connected online, but you were more indoors, you're more inside yourself. So if you don't have a sense of purpose, you probably won't have happiness where you're doing your job or whatever you do. So I think that's the thing that I think about it.
It's a very good point, Christian. Aubrey, did you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I'm gonna share something. Like, here in us, we call it the new normal. Like, people started to work from home, and it's like very different because most of us wants to like go to the office. But I think most of the people are now adopting the new normal, started working at home. And I think because more people are passionate about their work, and for us youth, I think because we are more creative to find solution on things, so I think this new normal is being adopted by young people.
I agree with that. I think this new normal is, or this new reality is being adapted by young people, but it's also a reset time for us where we can literally sit down and disconnect calling from vocation. Like, we have an opportunity when we talk about economic opportunities and the future of work to really, for the first time possibly since the Industrial Revolution, to really create channels that best serve our brothers and sisters all around the world, regardless of what class system they operate under. So that separation of calling and vocation is really a must. We have to start thinking about sharing more calling, and the vocation is intertwinable. The third question that I have is the power of societal and economic advantages are generated through building links across all boundaries, right? What insight would you like to share to help youth around the world with ways on how they can advocate for their fellow brothers and sisters during COVID-19 and thereafter?
I do believe we can work to better the position of other people by making use of, well, the supplies, the resources that are offered to us. And you just said it, since the Industrial Revolution started, there has not been a moment in which we had more opportunity, I would say, to make our voices heard. Making your voices heard, for example, through Zoom, for example, through Facebook or social media. But I would personally go even further and say that now it's more and more easy and possible to have friends all over the world. It has become more and more easy to share information, to share knowledge, to share the lessons we learn every day in a normal context. And if we share, and if you share, and if the neighbor shares, and if everyone shares, then at some point the whole of people will start to learn. The whole of people will come to the position of learning how to fish.
That's a good one. And maybe even we can dive into it a little bit deeper in your capacity within the roles within the YMCA. What have you identified that we can right now in your own social influence that you can start pulling out?
So Amos, I'm sorry, Raquel, go on.
Well, I just want to very briefly quote Miss Christine again and say that you are your own biggest advocate and you don't need permission. And things like this. The minute we were asked, everybody on this panel, they said, do you want to speak to the youth? We all stepped forward. We did not hesitate. So things like that, I would say that, again, piggybacking off of Aubrey, the youth are especially equipped and adaptable for this time. Just put yourself out there. And yes, you're going to fail from time to time. Yes, there are going to be challenges, but you don't get to where you need to go, and you don't advocate for others by staying silent. So that's all I have to say about that.
It's a good one.
Yeah, well, Amos, I was reading, you probably guys know about Yuval Noah, the guy who wrote Homo Deus, and he talks a lot about the future. And he's saying that probably we're going to have to choose between two paths about nationalism, isolation, and global solidarity. And those things that the YMCA know how to do it. The YMCA knows how to be solidarity about around the world. So if you isolate the countries, you're probably going to have a local business grow, right? So that's going to improve all of the opportunities that the youth people can have, and as well improve the YMCA work in locations inside their own countries. And if you have a global solidarity, that's going to make sure the job that we do at the YMCA is even more, grows even more. So that's pretty much it. I just want to say that.
It's a great point.
Yeah, may I add something?
Sure.
Yeah. So I think one of our strength to use our voice is also using, aside from our creativity, is using our entrepreneurial mindset to combat these economic problems by starting online businesses, digital marketing, and even digital commission work. So this is one way to share to other people what we want to combat this pandemic situation when it comes to economic problem.
Yeah. Jonathan, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I wanted to say I totally agree with what Aubrey just said, and it's kind of intriguing, this entrepreneurial mindset. I think that's also a thing we can recognize in our own lives, in ourselves, of course, but also in our communities with our close friends, for example. And I think we all have the possibility to interact with it in a positive manner. So if people have a good idea, not to immediately shut it down, but rather to be actively towards improvement, to actively think towards how to make something work. And I think that's something we can do all together, even across boundaries.
Entrepreneurial mindset, just being a co-founder of a television network for entrepreneurs and traveling the world, we have noticed, and it is part of our core, that the entrepreneurial heart doesn't change. What fundamentally separates the cream from the top is the infrastructure and the system that those entrepreneurs, those innovators are creating under. And during this time, we have an opportunity as young people and as leaders in our own social, our circles of influence, to ensure that when we rebuild those roads, that those roads are inclusive and those roads have offshoots or alleys attached to them that are easily accessible for every person, regardless of who they are and their skill set. And one thing that I go back to say is that, my pinky toe is no more important than my thumb. My ear is no more important than my kneecap. We are all part of the body. And if you chop one of them off, then everything doesn't work really well. So as part of a body, we have a responsibility to each other to ensure that everyone is well. And the final question I have is really around the future of work. Many people are afraid of the future of work, and I think rightfully so. I would like to say or ask if you could share one call to action to encourage and activate innovators and young people as they create goods and services and companies around the world. We know that, economic opportunity isn't a passive product of excellence. It's an active participation. So could you share with everyone what that looks like, and what do you anticipate that journey being?
I think specifically speaking to the youth of the Y, make sure you bring everyone with you. If you have expertise in social media, in technology, if you know how to use the webinar and the Zoom technology more than your colleagues, and you see them struggling, bring them on board, be a support, start even little tutorials, making sure that we don't go into this next phase of 75% technology and 25% in personal contact with fear. We can go in and say, hey, we can save a lot of energy we were wasting before. We can work smarter, not harder, and sell our colleagues on it who are maybe a little older than us, maybe a little bit more hesitant. Maybe this is terrifying for them. So just a reminder that this may be exciting for some of us. I know for me personally, I was like, yes, I know how to do all of this, right? I was like, yes, I have to do more. But I had some colleagues that were genuinely freaking out because they were like, I've never done this before. And so my advice and my wish for all the youth at the Y to do is to grab everyone else's hands and bring them with you. Don't forget about them. Make sure that they're aware of what's going on. And remember that, like Chris was saying, this is solidarity. We're all in this together. It's not a competition. It feels like it sometimes, but it's not a competition.
And I want just to add to that, Raquel. Thank you for that. And I just want to say that we all scared, right? We all scared. All of us in here are scared about what's going on after. But the change is one of the things that we have sure it's going to take place always. If you look back for the past 100 years or so, we had 2 world wars, we had flu, we had the man went to space, and so the economic change in a whole lot of different ways, and we all adapt. We always adapt. So I like what Aubrey was saying. Like the entrepreneur thinking is one of the things that we're probably going to have to improve even more, and not just that. The way we think about job and work, what I'm saying, like it's not only a job. People have to understand they're gonna work. So maybe you always thinking about, hey, my work hours are set, and probably this will change. And not only that, you're not gonna work with your arms anymore because you have AI, you have robots, you have a lot of other things happening right now. So you're probably going to have to work a little more with your brain and online and social media and stuff. So change is one of the things that always happens. So yes, be scared, all right? But make sure you're going to adapt for sure.
Great call to action. Love that.
Okay, I wanted to answer also.
Floor is yours.
Okay, so I think the outbreak of COVID-19 really affects us. It has negative impact on economy, education, livelihood, as well, well-being, and young people specifically are very much affected because of this. Because of school closure, youths are frontliner. Some young professional loses their job. Some practice work from home. Some also experience no work, no pay policy. But I think young people are very optimistic and innovative. So I think because we want to use our creativity to contribute to the solution. And I think our practice in our local Y, together with our youth volunteers, we use this social media platform to bring everyone to be connected again to their work and how to establish their life again. Even this, we are practicing the new normal. So we have this one concrete example of activity that we're doing, that we established the Y Advo Cafe. This is under Wells Fargo, that we showcase the products of micro entrepreneurs in our locality, because we want to help them how to sell their products, because some of us here in the Philippines don't have access to internet, which is very much needed as of today. So we help these farmers um, and young entrepreneurs to sell their products in order for them to regain again their work and their businesses. So we also have designing of new programs how to help these young entrepreneurs to establish their future careers, because again some loses their job, and we have this online e-commerce session and financial literacy sessions for us to help these people who doesn't have background to entrepreneurship, so that they can use entrepreneurship as a tool to cope up with the situation.
It's a great point, Aubrey. So our Q&As are blowing up, they're exploding. So that being said, I am so grateful for the lively and authentic and vulnerable conversations that we just had. I'm sure it's given life to a lot of people. So I'm appreciative of that. And Christine, can I throw it to you so that you can ask some of the questions to us?
Of course. So let's get right into it. Again, to reiterate Amos, wonderful introduction, by the way. I think you took everyone back to the church with that intro. It was amazing. So thank you, Amos, for moderating that panel. Another round of applause, virtual claps, and the comments. Like he said, the chat feed is on fire. So let's start with the first question. Rabio Hamidou asks, majority of young people may not have a sense of purpose. How do we solve this issue? Which is a very loaded question to kick off. Let's see who could take it.
It's a billion-dollar question, isn't it?
It's a billion-dollar question. I can jump in first and then I'll release it. Purpose is not something that you find. Purpose is something that is revealed. It is a revelation. And the way that you receive revelations is by being restful and being quiet. And in those moments of turmoil, it's an inner voice that you know that gives you complete and utter feeling of approval. And that small voice says, this is how you bring sustainable change to the masses. So it's listening to that voice and then making the conscious decision to put one small step in front of the other, and purpose is revealed. It is never discovered.
Yeah, I would definitely second that, because as someone who struggled to find their purpose for a long time, my first degree was in graphic design. Then I went back for early childhood education. I'm currently in for urban Christian ministry. So eventually it took me a while to realize that I am purpose for ministry, right? So it's like you said, you don't find your purpose, it finds you. Once you realize this is what I want to do and this is what makes me happy, then you realize, okay, this is it. And like you said, resting, taking that time. I personally, and I feel comfortable saying that in this space, that, you know, I would fast. And when I would fast and seek answers, I would get answers. And so taking yourself aside, getting rid of all the distractions and realizing what really makes you happy, that's when the purpose finds you.
Yeah, I would only agree. I would personally envision purpose not to be something on the far horizon to go to, but rather I would advise you just go to the horizon and find the purpose along the way. I think the journey is more important than the destination itself, which may be a purpose. However, during our journey, we can of course still be led by positive influences from the people that are close and dear to us. And this also includes, of course, our interrelation with the rest of the world and the things that are needed by other people. So I think on our life's journey, we will find a purpose by being influenced by other people sometimes, but also by our own inner being.
Amazing responses to that first question. Don't worry, we have way more to come. And so let's transition to Derek, and let's keep filling the questions from the social media feed. I would love to answer those as well. So this one's from Derek. This discussion is so important. However, the challenge with young people and engaging into entrepreneurship, for example, is that there is need of startup money for business. How best can we train young people in business that do not require so much funding so that they can be able to bring their best foot forward?
Great question. as a person who's launched 4 businesses, 2 of them with 0 outside funding and capital, I think it goes back to the body conversation again. Your arm isn't as more important as your leg. And that means that there are people in your network that have certain skill sets that you can ask for help. And I think that is, especially for men, that's by far the most vulnerable place that we can be, is to say, I don't have the answers, but this is the vision. And as an entrepreneur, your responsibility is to ensure that the seed that was planted in your heart has the ability to be communicated to someone else where they can reflect that tree that's growing. So it's not impossible. It does require us to pay attention, and it does require us to be really humble, yet also resilient in receiving no's, because it will happen.
One more person want to take that from the panel?
Well, and you also have to understand that those times that we're living right now, you can actually talk to, I don't know, whoever you want in like two or 3 social network connections, right? So even if you don't have the funding for it, you don't have the money to start a business or to do something, you can talk, as Amos was saying, you can connect people around you, or even connect people that you don't even know next to you. They're not near to you. You can post something on Facebook and tag, I don't know, whoever you want, right? Obama, if you will, and you can have the connection that you need. So that's one of the greatest time we're living to start a business because of that. So it's easy to find the connections you need to start a business.
All right, let's transition to the next question from John Ray Luciano. How can we ensure, especially this being the future of work panel, you guys had different insights, and Aubrey, you might be able to lead on this. How can we ensure that working conditions will be safe for workers in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic? Another loaded question from John Ray.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure, no problems. How can we ensure that working conditions will be safe for workers in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Okay, so here we practice the 50% of people working should be like scheduling inside the work. But for us entrepreneurs, we also practice this safety measure or guidelines not to contact with people like directly. So you have the scheduling of how you deliver your goods, and you communicate with them digitally, so that you know when and where to pick your example, your items, what you're selling.
Anyone else want to take that question?
Yeah, here in Charlotte, they've actually done a really good job with the Y, sending out COVID-19 guidelines to where we are all aware of what the rules are, of what the conditions will be. And one of the biggest things that I appreciated about the work that they put in was reminding us that if we don't have to put ourselves in unnecessary, physical proximity, don't. So, and it was really just kind of freeing us and reminding us that our health is a big concern to them, and remembering to just stay safe in whatever condition. So having a uniform message to the whole YMCA Association, I think that's what was helpful.
All right, final question before we transition to the encouragement video. What final remarks do you have regarding what the future will look like in terms of work? Are you scared? Are you hopeful?
The future of work is the future of now. I am very hopeful and very happy.
I'm hopeful too, but I am a bit scared because people have to understand, and they didn't understand yet, that change will need to change, and that's good. That's what makes us hopeful.